married my wife out of obligation, but time brought me to love her. So growing up, my dad left me when I was around 6, my mom was an alcoholic and mistreated me. I basically was living in a dump with her. The best part was going to school because my friends respected me and accepted me for the jerk I was. I enjoyed socializing with them and they made my day, however they were bullies. Now I didn't care about bullying. I knew it happened, but as long as I didn't do it or was the victim, I was fine. Then in comes this shy, scared, and nervous-looking girl into my middle school. My girlfriends began to group up and bully her for a couple of weeks. I didn't care, I wasn't going to take part or be the victim. I just wanted to finish school at the time. The bullying continued for the girl. She would cry, hide, and try to stay away from school as long as she could. When my friends locked her into a locker once, I stopped them. I guess she used that opportunity to get to know me. When my friends skipped school, she would come and talk to me or sit near me at lunch. She would share her lunch with me since I had nothing. She helped me with my homework, which I had no idea about. And she began to pay me, which I liked. I guess in return, I stopped my friends from getting to her. I owed her that. As years went by, she invited me to dinner with her parents, we would hang out together, and she'd pay for everything, which again, I liked. I liked her, but she loved me. As time continued to go by, I got my driver's license at 17. The problem was that a car would cost a lot of money and insurance for a young person like myself was a lot. So I asked her parents for the money, saying I will pay them back. I knew they would say no. They should have said no. Everything would be so different if they did. But they said yes, and bought me my very own car. After that moment, I realized that I had to take care of their daughter, at least until I paid them back. I would drive her anywhere and everywhere. We became closer and closer. She was so happy with me and always has a smile on her face when she sees me. It was her that kissed me first, it was her that brought me to her church, it was her that proposed to me, and it was both of us that got married to each other and gave each other our V cards. We've been married for 10 years tomorrow. I still owe her parents for the car and owe my wife all the cash she gave me. I like her, but she loves me so much. I've never cheated on her or ever thought about it. Our lives are perfect, but I wish I could let her know that I don't love her the way she loves me. To conclude, I work a minimum wage job and my wife is a teacher. We don't have kids. She loves me so much, but if I could take it all back, I would. I want to feel differently and I am trying to work on it to be the man she deserves. Have you ever picked up a creepy hitchhiker? I was driving home from working at a water park. That whole day we were experiencing a pretty bad snowstorm which made the roads really slick. I was 3/4 of the way home from my short shift when I saw that someone had gone off the road. Their car was really far down into a ditch. I pulled into a driveway to turn around, then put on my flashers, rolled up my window, and got out and tried telling the person to stop hitting the gas because the car was so stuck that it wasn't going to move. It almost looked like the Titanic sinking. The rear end was sitting up higher than the front and the wheels were barely touching the ground. The front wheels kept just slinging mud and snow everywhere. I was yelling, but the driver clearly either couldn't hear me or wasn't understanding me, so I climbed down into the ditch to get closer so I could hear them. When I got down I realized that the ditch was full of muddy water, so my boots and pants got soaked. I reached into the car and shut the car off. As soon as I did that I could hear the driver. The driver was a beautiful teenage girl who was clearly extremely drunk. She smelled like alcohol and her words were slurred. She kept talking a mile a minute about how I needed to go get chains so I could pull her car out so she could get home so she could go to work tomorrow. I just interrupted her and asked if she was hurt. She said no and then went back to talking about chains. I told her that I didn't have chains and that even if I did there's no way my tiny truck could pull her car out. The ditch was probably 8 feet deep and her car was at least a foot deep in mud. She would have needed a tractor to get it out, and then once it's out the car looked totaled. I asked her if she had a phone and she said yes and held up a phone with a cracked screen which was soaking wet and not working. I told her that she could use my phone to call someone if we head back to my truck. The door to her car was stuck shut because it was partially buried in mud, so I had to help her crawl out of the window. Then she just crawled up the side of the ditch. I climbed up out of the ditch after her to find her sitting in my truck. I got in as well. She was sitting on top of all of my stuff including my headphones, which was kind of irritating, but she was drunk so she probably didn't even realize. As mentioned, this girl was really pretty. The kind of girl I'd never be able to talk to if not for an emergency situation happening. I gave her my phone to call someone and she tried a few times but no one answered. She said, "Can you just bring me home?" And the way she said it made my face red and I blushed. So I just immediately said yes without considering what I was getting into. My mother was expecting me home at a certain time and because of the weather she was very strict about me updating her. But this girl had me completely distracted. I completely forgot to tell my mom that I had stopped. I asked the girl where she lived and she said next to some Family Dollar in a town 30 minutes away. I knew where that was so I headed in that direction. Things were really quiet and awkward for a few minutes because I was too flustered to say anything. I'm awful at talking to women. She looked younger than me though, so I could have. Then she just started talking about how she had just come from a party and how she was fine to drive, and then about her work and things her friends had said. She kept talking like I knew her for a long time. Making a bunch of references to people I don't know or events I wasn't there for. It was awkward. After a while she kept asking me rapid-fire questions. What's my name? How old am I? What do I do for work? Who I'm friends with? She asked if she could play something on my phone. So she played some music on my phone through the truck speakers. Then I almost went off the road and unalived us both when I tried to peer at the low-cut top for too long. She had said that her hands were freezing and I said yeah, mine are cold too. But she grabbed my hand and felt it and said, "They're not that cold, haha," and put my hand on her lap. To this day, that's the only time I've ever touched a girl like that, and it scared the crap out of me and distracted me so much that we almost went off the road. She was wearing leggings and she put my hand right on her thigh and then her hands on top of mine. I guess to warm it up. It was really hard to drive while also trying to savor the moment, plus she just kept talking and talking. We eventually got to the Family Dollar she had talked about and she just got out of my truck, said, "Thanks," and then walked off towards her house. I thought about asking for her number, but not only did I completely chicken out, but she was older than me and definitely wouldn't be interested. On my way back home I kept thinking about what had happened and how no one was going to believe me, but mostly about how soft and warm she was and how even though I thought she was annoying at first, her voice became angelic after she put my hand on her lap. But then I got pulled over. The cop came up to me and asked if my name was my name. Then he basically started yelling at me saying that my mother has been calling them over and over again, making them go out in this snowstorm looking for me, and that she thought I had crashed. He said that they were already extremely busy because there were people actually going off the road and that I was taking them away from real emergencies. He escorted me the rest of the way home and I had to explain to him and my mother what took me so long. My mother didn't believe me and still doesn't believe me, and I got in a huge amount of trouble and ended up having to quit my job at the water park to get something closer to home. I was grounded for weeks and now I have to have Life 360 on my phone. I'm a terrible person and I think my pregnant wife deserves better. I met Anna in high school. Since then she has been deeply in love with me, but I haven't felt the same way about her. We started a relationship when we were 17 and 14. I graduated and moved for university. I broke up with her because I wanted to explore the college lifestyle. I was unfaithful to my next relationship with Anna, and then I had another partner to whom I was also unfaithful with Anna. This one broke up with me instead of staying and I was single. Anna had also moved to the same city for her university, and we began a serious relationship for the second time. We lasted a couple of years during which I was unfaithful with 7 people in total, with one affair lasting the whole course of the relationship. I left Anna for this long-term affair partner. However, I was once unfaithful to that person with Anna, and after we broke up I started a serious relationship with Anna for the 3rd time. Before asking her to be my girlfriend, I told her about the infidelity and I promised not to be unfaithful again. She believed me. During our 3rd attempt she moved away for a whole year, during which I was with 2 people with whom I made very strong connections, but even though I considered the option of breaking up with Anna, those 2 women were not worth leaving Anna for in my opinion at that time. As soon as Anna finished her rural year, I went to Europe to work. During that year we became quite distant, especially on my side. I told her I was sleeping with many girls during my time away, and she was welcome to do the same. However, she stayed loyal and waited for me. We got married at the end of the year. I returned to our city and we started living together again. During that year I cheated 2 more times and Anna knew it all. At the end of the next year I met a 3rd woman named Jessica. Anna realized that my connection with Jessica was very strong and asked me to stay away from her. I agreed at the beginning and stayed away, but I could not keep my feelings for Jess in very long and started seeing her again. This bothered Anna a lot. We argued and I ended up just removing her fingerprint from my phone and I stopped sharing my GPS location with her. I didn't mention anything else about those 3 women and I continued having intimacy with all of them, but then I lost interest in one, then on the second, then I lost interest in Jessica, then we moved houses and Jessica was too far away so I picked it back up with the other one. I stopped seeing Jessica for about a month and then in November we had intimacy again and she told me that she slept with her ex-boyfriend. This deeply upset me so I stopped talking to her without giving her any explanations. In March of this year, the ex-boyfriend of one of those women sent Anna some screenshots of conversations with me and I was forced to tell her about all the infidelities of the previous 2 years. She thought that since our fight 2 years ago I had changed and was heartbroken, but stuck by me. In April of this year, Jessica wrote to me to find out why I had stopped talking to her last year. I told Anna and she was not okay with me going to meet Jessica, but I went anyway. I assured her I would not cheat this time, but I began to see Jessica very frequently, and she became my side piece. I met her family and her friends and we began to create the strongest connection I have ever felt for a person in my entire life. Due to the nature of our relationship I was extremely insecure about her fidelity, I was the most jealous and toxic man I have ever met with her and I became emotionally dependent on her. In July Jessica started telling me that she suffered a lot from being my lover so I broke up with her. She asked me to leave my wife and when I said no, she agreed to be my lover without complaints or claims. So we got back together. In August we were going to rent an apartment and we bought a bed and other things. But one night, I was out having drinks with Anna and some friends and Jessica uploaded a picture to her Instagram that I didn't like and that made me very angry. I started to think about Jessica's past and also about the financial burden that a second home would bring. In the end I came to the conclusion that it was not worth it. I told Anna everything and told her that I was going to break up with Jessica. Anna accepted and the next day I broke up with Jessica with the excuse of the photo. It's been almost 2 months now and I'm convinced that it was the best thing I could do. However, I keep thinking that maybe I'm wasting my wife's time. Maybe she deserves someone who truly values the woman she is. Maybe this will happen again for another woman in the future. My wife is also currently 16 weeks pregnant. I plan to be a good father.